We started, I think, about 7 years back. Just completed our 7 years. We started with the idea that we wanted to build everything around the EV as an ecosystem. Right? Yeah, that's a pretty good question actually. So when we look at Western market versus India, developed markets versus India.
One key thing that I have personally observed in the EV industry is there are two problems. Firstly, welcome to What's Next with Adi.
Joining us is the visionary Mr. Jyotiranjan Harichandan,
The co-founder of Bolt.Earth and the brilliant mind behind sculpting one of the world's largest EV charging networks. So welcome to What's Next with Adi. And so sir, you have been in this industry since the last 7 years. It would be great if you could share your journey with my audience about how you transitioned from RevOS to Bolt.Earth.
Thank you, Adi. Pleasure having you here.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks for the opportunity to share our journey with you. We started, I think, about 7 years back. I think just completed our 7 years. We started with the idea that we wanted to build everything around the EV as an ecosystem, right? So with that in mind, we started RevOS, which is Revolutionary Electric Vehicle Operating Stack, quite a mouthful. But the aim was to create the operating stack, hardware, physical layer, infrastructure, whatever is required to make EVs successful. Because what we realized at that point of time was that there is a EV rush which is going to happen. A lot of OEMs, traditional and startups, going to build their own EVs, which we are seeing in full swing today. But there will be few players who will be kind of focusing on the digital and the physical infrastructure. So with that in mind, we started our company as RevOS. And our aim was and still is to become the Android for electric vehicles. Okay. And we want to provide software to make these vehicles smart, as well as the physical hard infrastructure in a way that basically is sustainable, which is also involving a large number of people. And that is how we have modeled our business and basically business models around. So currently as Bolt.Earth, we are the largest charging network in India. We have thousands of users using our app every day. And we have about 30,000 odd charging points across India to basically charge your vehicles. And our business model now is on the charging side is pretty simple. We are like Airbnb for charging points. When you are buying an EV, the first thing you generally do is you go to your home or your office or your small shop or your business which you are running, and you set up a small point for your own charging needs.
True.
So what we do is we provide a socket which helps you basically do that in a safer and reliable way, as well as with the tap of a button on the app, you can share it with others as well. Right? You can set your own rate. So it's kind of empowering the users to basically take charge of their own charging basically experience, as well as solve it for other EV users which are coming as we scale the EV adoption in the country. Right?
So basically, you have got into the micro level as well as serving the macro level for the EV infrastructure in the country.
Yes, we started this journey essentially focused on what is the most cost effective and asset light way to scale this across country, emerging market like India and other markets also like Southeast Asia, Africa. So what our thought process was that we wanted to build this for everybody, as well as in a way that everybody solves it for themselves first. Like how you hear the announcement while you are sitting on the plane, first put the mask on yourself before helping others. Yes. So that is what we intended to do. The network we were creating, and our products and services, everything is designed to solve this.
Sure. So sir, also, so you have scaled up India's largest charging network. How is it different to scale up a EV charging network in a developing country when you compare it to a developed one? Or how is it different, especially when you talk about India?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question actually. So when we look at Western market versus India, or developed markets versus India, there are a lot of issues, especially on the developing side of market, which is India, Southeast Asia, Africa, South America, everybody, most of the people around the world actually. That first of all is the vehicle difference. The vehicles here in India are like 1:8, 1:9, or sometimes 1:10 in favor of two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So for example, in India we have about, we sell about 20 million odd scooters or three-wheelers every year, and in terms of cars, we are reaching about 3 million or something. right? So, which is if you look at it 1:9 kind of a ratio. And if you look at the our requirement also, as per Ministry of Petroleum's own data, about 70% of the energy is being consumed by 2 and 3 wheelers because the sheer number of them is very large, right? Our focus was basically on the developing markets, which is India and similar countries. So here there is a vehicle basically which is completely different than the West. West, most of the people use cars.
True.
Here in India, we mostly use two-wheelers or sometimes autos to commute. Cars, most of the people do not have the luxury to afford actually in a market like India. Of course, this will grow, but also the two-wheeler adoption will also grow, right? Apart from the vehicle side, there is also the grid side issues. So if you look at power supply in a developed market, it's very stable. You have very stable voltage, current, there are no spikes. You have a dependency on the grid that, okay, it will be available for 24 hours or 23 hours, whatever, 99% uptime. But if you look at India or emerging markets as this thing, that reliability also goes away. Most of us know how much power cuts we face, and if you go to the smaller cities and towns, it becomes even more difficult. And on top of it, we generally take a lot of time to upgrade our infrastructure and grid, right? Which is the case we have faced. So we had designed our products and services in a way that it can serve the 2 and 3 wheeler customer first, and then go to scale to 4 wheeler as well. And also on the grid side, it should not draw a lot of energy. It should not be dependent on the grid upgrade, because that would not allow us or our customers to get the most best experience. Right? So we built our products in a way that first basically we launched the level 1 and now level 2 chargers, which are focused on solving in the existing grid confinements itself, right? Using hardware, software, machine learning, everything, right? So that is what we have basically focused on, and that is how I think it is very different from the developed markets versus a developing market.
Also, we have been hearing how battery technology is adapting. We had lead acid before, now we have lithium ion. There's solid state battery that's coming up. But there's not much talk about the charger technology that's coming up. So if you could put some light about the new charging technologies that are coming up. You spoke about level 1 and level 2 charging yourself. So if you could put some light on this.
Basically, if you look at the charging, like the batteries, that's more dependent on the internal chemistry side of things. But if you look at the charging infrastructure, it is much more dependent on the grid, essentially, as the bottleneck, if you look at it. So currently with our existing technologies and the new products we have already launched or are in the pipeline to launch, we would be fix some of the key issues, especially for the 2 and 3 wheelers, and also focusing on the 4 wheeler, essentially with our newer level 2 launch. Our aim is to enable people to have a faster charging experience wherever they park and charge today, right? Rather than focusing on 50, 100 points in a city, we are aiming to build the technologies which can fast charge everywhere, right? And it would mean that upgrading the existing infrastructure as well as making sure the next generation of technologies and products are built and are deployed in a way which is basically profitable for the company, as well as solving this fast charging problem. And in fact, we are working already with some of the battery pack manufacturers across India and globally also to enable them to have fast charging in 15 minutes, 50 kilometer kind of ranges. And also, by the way, this can be deployed anywhere across our existing charging network. So till now, what we have found out is the major problem why all the bikes and all the cars are not supporting fast charging to the extent they should be is because there is still thermal problems in the battery itself rather than the fast charging capability which can be found today already.
And so also one key thing that I have personally observed in the EV industry is there are two problems. Firstly, the EV buyers are not buying electric vehicles saying that there is no infrastructure, and the people on the other end making infrastructure are not, they're saying that why should I put in chargers if there's no user? So where does the balance come in?
See, we think like every month about 1 lakh EVs are sold in India today, right? Even if we convert 1-2% of these guys, which we are already doing, I think more than 2% of these guys to basically have, we expect that the charging infrastructure problem would also be solved. And it is not that in day zero itself we can solve it, but over the next 2-3 years, I think there is definitely a momentum already between last 2 years, 3 years, and today you can already see the progress in that. And I think also on EV, people who are thinking about buying EVs and not buying EVs because there is lack of charging points, what most of the people kind of fail to understand is that 99.99% of the trips are going to be inside city.
True. So it's a
And
mental blockade like thing.
it is much more mental blockage than going out and buying EVs because of lack of charging infrastructure. Now there is some concern on the price essentially, which is at a premium of 10 to 20% for a two-wheeler and 30% for a four-wheeler. That is definitely there, but those prices would probably be around the same number by 2024-25. Already things are happening. True. Thanks to companies like Ola and Ather who are launching prices which are competitive, products at prices which are competitive to existing market leaders in the ICE segment, right? So I think more and more players entering, traditional and new, and newer products by existing players is going to bridge that gap over the next 1 to 2 years. And we would have similarly competitive priced ICE and basically gasoline vehicles. True. And I think after that, once people start using and they hear testimonials from their friends and family, close relatives, that they actually don't need so many charging points. It's only a home and office which is where you have to focus on charging. And the rest of the thing is either way is being figured out by the ecosystem players like us. I think people would start adopting EVs very fast.
Super. So EVs are big on software. So how are you using new technologies like AI and ML in your company?
Thanks for that question. I think there has been a disruption from AI, AGI essentially side from the last 1.5 years since Open AI has come out. What we are seeing is that on the OS side of business is where we are focused on implementing AI, because simple things like range prediction or battery health data typically needs AI and data points which we collect today to predict better outcomes. So if I am saying that your car or your bike's range is 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, it should give you that 20, 30 kilometers exactly. If it is 15 kilometers or even 19 kilometers, you might not reach your home or your charging station. So those are the places we are already implementing AI. And I think internally inside our own workflows also we are changing as an organization. In fact, I personally have been using ChatGPT to send out a lot of my mails and also prepare a lot of documents and everything. I think each and everybody's work is getting impacted positively, hopefully in the longer run. And we think that everybody in organization and outside organization, all of our products would kind of have some bit of AI over the next few years, if not already. Right.
Also, sir, when we talk software in today's day and age, cybersecurity is a big deal.
Yeah.
So how are you implementing cybersecurity at Bolt.Earth, and how big is cybersecurity in the EV space as a business?
We treat security pretty seriously, and we have ISO certifications on security pen tests, and we have third-party security companies which verify and audit our own internal processes as well, and the stack we are using, especially because this is related to some things like vehicles which are moving, also the data security in terms of the privacy concerns, right? So all of that we have kind of been taking care of. We would be increasing our focus and commitment on the safety and security side as and when our startup also progresses. The more products we launch, we are taking care of it, and I think it's something which is now essential. It's not like afterthought. It is essential to start with basically secured services and microservices, rather than having it as an afterthought that okay, I have built this, now how do I
ab isko secure karo?
Yeah, so I think we take the first approach where we think of it security as the first layer for even making it smart, right? So all of our basically communication channels are encrypted, including hardware communication protocols.
Okay.
So we have done a lot of pen tests on all of these products as well through third-party basically organizations to get certified as well.
When we were talking about setting up and charging infrastructure in India, one big thing we talked about was the grid. So these days, cars in India are also coming up with V2G capability.
Yeah.
So how is that going to help things, and what changes will it bring? Is it really going to help?
I think, like I was telling you earlier, on the grid side, there are a lot of issues on the grid side, but I think the government is taking a step in the right direction. We are seeing basically smart meters being installed. which gives you that opportunity to feed back energy into the grid. It's not just one way now. You can do two-way transfer essentially, just like UPI. So I think with UEI and other things coming in, we expect that these technologies merge together, just like what Aadhaar bank account and everything else kind of merged to give us the UPI convenience, which we all of us currently use in India. We think this UEI and other technologies which are coming up by the government and infra level basically upgrade in terms of smart meter. When there is differential tariff which should be introduced in the next 1 to 2 years. So there is a solar tariff where if you are taking energy in the day, you would be charged lesser than in the night, right? So that means if you actually store energy in your vehicle in the day while the solar rays are basically shining on your house, you can use it in the night directly from your vehicle to house, and you have to pay lesser electricity bill. It's a direct technology merging essentially here, right? So there is an opportunity here. It will play out in the next, I would say, 5 years, 10 years time. But there is, if you ask me today, what is the solution? It's not there. But I think with all culmination of all of these technologies and initiatives from government, whether on the solar, smart meter, and even EV side, I think all of these merging together is something which I can see happening, and that will give much more better future for all of us, where our vehicles will be storing energy in the day and probably our house will be using in the night.
So everything's going to be interlinked.
Yes,
very soon.
Yes, yes.
One key point I thought of asking you about was blockchain.
Yeah.
So have you ever had a brainchild like thing with blockchain where you might have thought कि चलो blockchain को लगाते हैं in billing or maybe in energy energy sharing applications also?
We have had some initiatives. Essentially, we are looking at it in terms of carbon credits. Essentially, if you ask me, that's the exact use case we have figured out till now, where the energy which is being dispensed by the chargers or being utilized by vehicles also which are running our OS would have some kind of blockchain implementation, and that will validate that this bike has saved this much CO2 and this charger has saved this much CO2. Beyond that, I can't comment right now, but it's something we are already looking at.
Since we're talking about the future, what's next for Bolt.Earth? What are the things that you can share with the public that you're coming up with, and how do you see this industry evolving?
So I think two of the products which we launched recently in I think last year December, the Blaze Level 2, the Bolt.Earth Blaze Level 2 chargers and the Blaze DC chargers are coming out. So one of them is catering towards the car market, and the other one is the fast charging of EVs. Those are the things we are already working on, and we are also working with some of the large traditional OEMs. Unfortunately, can't take names. But to kind of roll out our charging network even deeper into tier 2, 3, 4 places and villages as well in India. So that gives us the depth in geography and distribution in terms of our charging network itself. And if you look at it, most of the people are still okay with basically cities having charging infrastructure already, at least the top 10 of them. But most of them are not convinced if tier 2, 3 cities and villages would have that infrastructure. So we are building that out as we speak, and some announcements should be coming sooner. And I think with this, we would be reaching the last mile, if you ask me, in terms of reaching Bharat villages and the smaller towns.
Certainly. And sir, and if you could share with the audience about how the government policies might be helping, the company set up electric charging stations across India, not in tier 1 cities, but towards, you're talking about Bharat.
Yeah, so I think the government policy has been pretty phenomenal for the last 3-4 years in terms of policy support. There were a few disruptions here and there because of FAME 2, but I think that is being rectified and stuff. And the demand for EVs has been kind of growing exponentially, essentially. And especially with direct subsidies like FAME 2, we are seeing that a lot of the people are willing to buy EVs, essentially. That cost delta is very small now, right, versus EV. Now, in terms of the FAME 3, I think this is still in policy works, but we are seeing a large amount of the FAME 3 coming to be in the charging infrastructure. Hopefully, it gets beyond the current construct which they had for FAME 2 for the cities and highways, and probably focusing on the rural and semi-urban areas as well. But that's still in the policy framework of the government. We can comment on it when it's out in the public domain. And but I think there has been a strong push from the government for adoption of EVs, as well as setting of charging points directly through PSUs or other government organizations. And I think that helps companies like us to basically not only electrify India, but also work with the government to basically make sure that the changes are happening.
Okay. So finally, you have been a superb entrepreneur. You have survived 7 years and you have built such a big startup. So if you could, share some of your input for the audience, who are looking to get into the EV space. So, if some of your learnings that you must have learned across these 7 years for the audience.
Yeah, so it's of course, surviving is thriving essentially in the startup world. I think where what we have learned is that there will be easy times and there will be tough times, and I think we should basically from both the sides essentially both the cycles as they happen, and our focus for startup should be what is the change we are going to do in everybody's life. Essentially, are we really adding value to the end customer we are building for? If not, like money or EV or any kind of sector doesn't appeal essentially that much. You should be really passionate about what we are really solving for the end consumer or the customer who's buying the product, or in your case probably viewing this podcast. Yes. Right? So that is, I think, the core thing we should ask as an entrepreneur ourselves when we are starting to build out, and that kind of helps us stay relevant in the first place, stay focused, and also make sure that we are delivering some kind of value. And in terms of company scaling and everything, that happens as a byproduct if you are able to deliver that value to the end customer.
So money shouldn't be the goal, value systems or the change that you're looking for should be the goal?
Yeah, the value you want to add to the customer's lives should be the goal essentially, and if you're able to do that, that is what gives me also immense happiness essentially today, and I think that helps me basically push our boundaries also.
Certainly, sir. Thank you for giving your time, sir, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with my audience. It was great having you on the show, sir.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.